you can see that Eisenhower really took a long view of the relationship of the supremacy of the civil authority over the military. That Eisenhower had a very complex and well-articulated view of the supremacy of the civil authority over the military. It was really a deep philosophical position that he had. It calls to mind his farewell address, where he warned of the evils of the military-industrial complex. Very prophetic, it seemed to me. So you had a very close relationship between Truman and Eisenhower, to the point where Truman repeatedly urged Eisenhower to return and run for president as a Democrat. Eisenhower rebuffed him on that repeatedly. It was remarkable to me to see in both the Truman and the Eisenhower papers how philosophically close Truman and Eisenhower were to one another. Most people, I think, believe that they were enemies and were not at all friendly. But in fact, for most of their overlapping careers, for most of the Truman presidency, Eisenhower was probably his most trusted advisor. Their falling out really came about on a very personal item, personal from Truman's point of view, in which he caught wind of Eisenhower's supposed infidelities with his wife Mamie, his chauffeur, basically. And whether that's true or not is really beside the point. It was certainly the cause of the split between Truman and Eisenhower. Up until that point, Truman was probably Eisenhower's biggest fan in the government. He wrote him a note, personal note, that is in a copy of which I believe is in the Truman library, but not in the, I don't think it's in the Eisenhower library. But I think their closeness really stemmed from their common background. Eisenhower, a Kansas boy, and Truman, a Missouri boy. I think they had rather common upbringing, at least through their teenage years, and had a lot of attitudes and values in common. Another thing that really was apparent about the Eisenhower administration was what a clever, and I think clever is the right word, astute bureaucrat, and I use that in the best sense of the word, Eisenhower was. How he used the bureaucracy and it's the motives of people in the bureaucracy for the good of the country, and I think there's no better example than that. The missile development program that Eisenhower put in place and pretty much managed from the White House, and that is he really had all three services developing their own intercontinental ballistic missiles. This was after Sputnik and the missile efforts of the rocket development in the Soviet Union and the like. And he had the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force all developing their own missiles. And of course what happened, one service developed solid fuel for rockets. The Navy learned how to launch missiles from under the ocean and development of the nuclear sub. The Air Force had its missiles, long-range missiles, and sophisticated guidance systems. What we ended up with for our ICBM force was really the best of the three missile development programs. So we made use of this inter-service rivalry to really maximize the effect of the U.S. missile development program. So he turned what was really a handicap, the inter-service rivalry, into a real asset. His deft handling of that seems to me to be one of the real examples of his competence as a manager and as a bureaucratic leader.